Look at this thing. This is weird that I like to do this.
Yes, as many other things that you do are.
Yeah, but does anybody else
No.
sit
No.
with...
No.
Like when you're just sitting,
No.
you feel like grabbing
No.
over here?
I can't even do that. My arms are too short.
We're seeing
BOOKSMART.
directed by Olivia Wilde, featuring
Starring
Jonah Hill's
Jonah
sister.
Hill's sister. Billy Lord is also in this.
I did not know that. Horrible Bosses. Jason Sudeikis.
Who is Olivia Wilde's husband.
Did not know that. Anyhow, I'm really excited, actually. There are 2 movies out tonight, Brightburn and Booksmart. And if you had asked me a month ago, I would have said, yeah, I'll be at Brightburn opening day. Because I am really super psyched up about Brightburn. But Booksmart, I think, looks so promising that I actually wanted to see this instead.
Yeah, I don't know anything about Brightburn, and I didn't even see a trailer for it. Booksmart, on the other hand, I've been seeing trailers for it for a while, and I've been excited for it. I just feel like it's going to be one of those movies that I'm just going to like because of the tone. I really hope that it's along the lines of like a Superbad and like a Blockers kind of, where the comedy is funny because the girls are funny, not because... we're just making jokes about our vaginas all the time.
Right, it's not funny that you have a vagina, half the population has a vagina.
More than half, but yes. So I'm hoping that it's more just like comedic and just funny in general. It doesn't have to be funny because they're girls, just funny, period.
Right. Well, that's the whole thing. It shouldn't have anything to do with that they're girls. It
Right.
should be that this person is funny, you know?
And I do feel like that this is a story I can somewhat relate to because I was very book smart, I guess you could say, when I was in when I was in high school. I did a lot of clubs. I was super involved. And I do feel like to some extent I did miss out on some stuff like these girls are saying. But I also feel like the dynamics in schools are a lot different now than they used to be. So I think it'll be interesting to see.
I am super psyched because Superbad is one of my all-time favorite movies.
Mine as well.
I think that it is a overlooked passion project of a movie that is generally overlooked because it's a comedy. And I, quite frankly, don't think that there has been a comedy as funny as Superbad since Superbad. And I'll stand by that. Maybe The Hangover. Maybe. Because of that, anything that you do that can be related to Superbad in any kind of way, I'll be there for it. Actually, it's interesting because Seth Rogen is putting out that movie, Good Boys.
Good Boys, yeah.
With the 5th graders, which I heard the concept and I was so into it. But we saw the trailers played back to back of this and Good Boys.
First of all, they use the same music.
Same music, yeah, and it's the same concept.
Same concept,
really,
the same premise, except one's high school girls and one is like 5th or 6th grade boys.
This looks better than Good Boys.
Yes.
You know, and I think that I definitely relate to this kind of movie. I love movies about high school kids getting in trouble when they're done well, you know, not like that, you know, Porky's sex comedy kind of thing, but just a movie that's really about how high school kids act.
I like adult movies about high schoolers as opposed to teeny bopper movies about high school. People are actually partying. People are doing drugs. People are having sex. I think that this is a much more realistic look on what high school is actually like.
Well, you were really book smart. I was frequently in trouble. And... you know, but not in like major ways, but in the ways that characters in movies like this kind of get themselves into situations. So something about that speaks to me, and I'm actually really excited.
And we're going to see BookSmart.
Cool.
I get schooled. Hello.
Hi, everybody. We just got out of BookSmart. And I had pretty decent expectations. I'll say not exactly the movie that I thought it was going to be, not nearly as silly, I think, as I thought. But I did really, really like it. I really enjoyed this movie a lot. And when I say not as silly, I really mean silly in a different way, because it is very silly.
Right. I enjoyed it too. I don't know if I enjoyed it as much as my expectations had hopes for, because when we go in talking about things like Superbad, you just sort of expect a level of comedy. I'm not saying that this wasn't funny. It was funny. It was just different kind of funny.
It was Superbad kind of funny in that they were getting into crazy shit, you know, and there was no way you could call what was going to happen next, which is something about Superbad that I enjoy. But what they were saying to each other was not nearly as funny, and that's because Superbad was special, you know?
I did really enjoy it, though. I'm not trying to, like, pick it apart right away.
Right.
But I did really enjoy it.
Right. Well, we just have to get out of the way that it's not as good as the best thing that exists. But that being said, it is very good.
I mean, apparently they went to this very cool school where everybody was friends with everybody, except for these two girls in particular. But that everybody was just cool with everybody, and when push came to shove, everybody was everybody's friend. Those are the kind of things that I can't...
And everybody's also a fucking genius, too.
There are, like, limits to how many Ivy League schools people can get into, especially, like... If a school accepted somebody from Yale, there's no way that they would be accepting two people from Yale from the same school, unless it was like some sort of prestigious like private school or like something like that. Like no regular public school has two students going to Yale, one student going to Harvard, one student going to Stanford, one student going to Georgetown. Like it just does not happen that way.
Right. And that didn't it's not enough to take me out, you know, but it's definitely something to notice because it's movie world. And even I think this also did something that kind of bothers me in movies like this, where it's like, where are the fucking adults?
Yeah, I suppose so. I was actually thinking about, after when I like had to go to the bathroom, I was thinking about the fact that Molly, Beanie Feldstein's character, you don't see her parents at all throughout the movie.
Right.
And I also kind of thought about the fact that...
Again, similar to Jonah Hill.
Right. And I also kind of thought about the fact that she lived in an apartment, whereas everybody lived in houses. I kind of thought about that whole thing. I feel like there might have been a scene somewhere about how, you know, her family doesn't really have a lot of money and she had to, you know, be smart because she wouldn't have been able to afford to go to college otherwise. You know, I was feeling like that was more her character, but then I also felt like that made her too relatable, and they really did want you to think that she was just an obnoxious know-it-all in the beginning.
Which is difficult, because if you want her to be... I prefer her to be relatable, you know what I mean? If you want her to be an obnoxious know-it-all and that's it, that's annoying, you know? But I didn't even think about the apartment, you know?
I'm not saying that there's something wrong with living in an apartment, because clearly they live in LA and it's very expensive.
Right.
So... and you don't ever see her parents. So sitting with it and thinking about it a little bit, I did kind of create this character that is maybe not as wealthy as all the other people that are going to all these Ivy League schools, and she needed some sort of scholarship in order to be able to afford to go to the school she wanted to go to. That's why she was so hell-bent on, you know, being perfect at everything and, you know, not having fun because she knew it was at risk by doing those things. Again, none of this was actually in the movie. This is just what I was thinking about afterwards. But I also agree with you that, like, that would have made her character more relatable, and then it would have made her arc better, because you wouldn't feel like we overnight just went from, you know, obnoxious know-it-all that nobody likes to totally cool and insane, like, giving the best valedictorian speech ever.
Right. When you show me, like, totally obnoxious know-it-all girl, I know that girl.
Right.
You know? And maybe that's the humor behind it, but it's also that then it's a fun, like, secondary character, or the second build person, you know.
Right.
As your lead, I just am saying I preferred the other girl more because I could relate to her more.
Right.
That being said, they do both have good character arcs that, you know, end up somewhere, and that's worth mentioning. Side characters, though, are all great.
Yeah. There's the rich kids that nobody really likes. I love Billy Lord. She's so cute.
Yeah. Yeah, she was great. I
liked her glitter mascara.
And she's totally whacked out in this movie too, which is great. The gay kid's very, very funny.
Both gay kids are super funny.
Yeah.
And then there was the girl with the hand jobs.
Yep.
Who, she was interesting because she was kind of like bitchy, but like also like more of like where we would be coming from as viewers, like, you're annoying, like, I don't want to be involved with you.
And then there's my favorite character in the whole fucking movie, fucking Fabio Jr., with the fucking hair.
Oh, yeah.
He was great.
Yeah. Theo was his name.
Theo. That kid was great.
And even their teacher that ended up. And Jason Sudeikis as the principal.
Oh, he was good too, yeah.
It's funny. Actually, I think that most of the, like, B characters in the film were very, very well done.
Which I think is actually a really important part of comedy, of comedy movies like this that gets overlooked all the time. Like, you know, you think about great comedies, it's not, the two main characters are funny.
Right.
You know, it's everybody is funny and everybody is kind of a character.
Right. And there's, like, more than just the main characters being funny, like, because then if the main characters aren't in a scene, is the movie not funny?
Or you have Hangover. That movie's all about all the crazy fucking people that they meet. We said it a million times, but Superbad. Million little characters in there. You can do it with anything. You know, any comedy Forgetting Sarah Marshall's a great one. Any comedy that really works, you know, unless you did something really special, I think that side characters are important, and a lot of times we don't see people use them enough. As far as, like, actual plot, you can pretty much call it. You know what I mean? However, the stunts and, like, the big set pieces, I guess you could say, but the big comedy things that happen are, you know, pretty creative, as far as, like, they go to the party on the boat, they're in the Uber with the teacher, they're, you know, with the porn, they have...
See, but I predicted the porn thing. That's the thing, like, you're saying these things, but, like, in my head, I don't know if I just watch a lot of teen movies, but, like, there were definitely a lot of tropes that I felt that they did sort of take advantage of. The
big events that happen in the movie, they're at least creative and different than, like, you know, I've seen Superbad does it first, and then a million movies want to do these kids go to a Coke party. As far as the actual plot, you can guess it from a mile away. You know what's going to happen. You know, it's not, there's no surprises, but there also doesn't have to be.
I actually like, too, that they ended up getting to the party eventually, and we spent a good amount of time at the party, because I was afraid that they were going to get to the party, like, at the end of the movie, and then it was just going to kind of be it.
Right.
Whereas, like, that's kind of what happens in Superbad, is that they're only at the party for
like, a minute to have sex, and that's it.
Yeah, for, like, 10 minutes in the movie, and then, like, the movie's kind of, like, done. I like that in this movie they do spend a good amount of time at the party, and there's a lot of different things happening at this party that, like, you're having to, like, follow along with. But again, there were, like, certain things happening at the party where I'm like, oh, this is so predictable.
And I did like that they wind up at the party, but I will say that plays into where in the first and into the second act, they had me, you know, they were able to surprise me a couple times with, like, things that they would do. Once you get to the party, it's still funny and it still works, but it is predictable.
I honestly thought, and given if it was made by somebody else, I suppose, I honestly thought when the cops came in and broke up the party, I swear to God, I thought that Seth Rogen was one of the cops that walked in. I swear to God, and I thought that would have been so fucking funny.
Prepare to be fucked
by the long dick of the law. Yep. I thought that would have been so hilariously funny.
Yeah, that would have been good.
I mean, I get why it couldn't be.
Right.
Because then that would have, you know, oh, is this a Superbad sequel? And, you know, it shouldn't have to, we always say, it shouldn't have to be a sequel in order for it to be viable. It could just be a movie on its own. It was just a movie on its own. I'm totally fine with that. I just thought for a second, and then I thought that would have been cool.
The plot definitely abandons reason and logic on occasion just to be funny, which is totally fine. If you're making a comedy, it should be funny, and that should be priority number one. When you get to the end of the movie and they need you to take this leap for the story that she would get arrested at the party
and, like, be locked up
the next day.
They have to talk over the phone.
With the jumpsuit, she'd be in the county jail. Like,
right, and she would have gone to the drunk tank and they would have let her out the next morning. It just, very simple.
And that's something that I can roll with if you need it for the plot. If you haven't made me take a couple jumps already.
Also, I do feel that them crashing through the gate of their school
is a little fucking ridiculous.
Is a little ridiculous as well.
A little too much movie for the movie's own good.
The only other complaint that I really have about it, and I do feel like I'm picking at it a lot, I don't know what it is now about these movies or shows, for that matter, that when they show like modern female teenagers, that they have to have them constantly referencing like empowering women.
Right.
Like, I have no problem with empowering women. You know, I have no problem with Michelle Obama or Malala or Rosa Parks. But, like, they were literally using their names as, like, code words between them. And it was just like...
That's not a personality trait, that's a gimmick now.
Yeah. You know? No, and I know teenage girls. Like, I know a bunch of them. And I've never once heard them speak like that, ever.
Right. Again, doesn't wreck up the movie for me, and doesn't happen nearly enough for me to even...
No. It's just something that, like, when it happens, because it's become, like, the norm now. Like, when they're trying to describe it when people get high, like, everybody sits there and goes, whoa, and I'm like,
right.
So high.
Cliche.
It's like one of those, yeah, it's like I guess like a cliche. It is because, yeah, I know the word for cliche.
Right.
I just don't know if that's exactly how I'm trying to describe it, but I suppose, for lack of a better word, because I can't think of one, it's becoming like a cliche to have these young females now be, like, obsessed with empowering women to the point where they're constantly, like, referencing it.
No, but you're right, because it's in a lot of movies as well.
Yeah.
You know, and maybe that's reflective of Olivia Wilde. I don't really know. But, you know, if she wrote the movie and directed the movie, then maybe her...
I don't know if she wrote it. I
don't know if she wrote
it.
But, you know, maybe some of her sensibilities are leaking into the characters, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but... She's also not a teenage girl. If you're Olivia Wilde and you're, you know, an actress in Hollywood and a grown woman, maybe you have more of those ideas, but it sounds a little silly to me coming out of, like, a high school girl's mouth, at least for every sentence.
Right.
Again, everything here is more or less, for me, a nitpick, because I did actually have a really, really good time watching this movie. They got one or two, like, really good laughs out of me, and everything else was, oh, that's funny, you know.
They do a really interesting thing in the middle of the movie too, where they become
oh, that was
like
really
Barbie
funny
dolls,
too, yeah.
And it's like almost like
and
stop
then that was the other one when they're walking out and they can't bend their arms. Yeah.
As cringy as it was, I also really enjoyed when they went to the boat party and nobody else was there.
I like that a lot too. Really good movie. I really, really enjoyed it. It's a solid B+, and you should see it.
I am also going to give it a B+. I did also really enjoy it. I wouldn't mind seeing it again. And I liked it. I just really liked it.
That's BookSmart.
Good night.
Good night.